Hello, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Today we're going to be making this sweet card. This was actually one of the cards that we made at Stamp Club in May of 2023. Today is June 1st. I can hardly believe that we're already into June. But I wanted to go ahead and share the projects that we did make recently at our May Stamp Club. So let's get started. And as we jump into that, I also want to mention the current host code. In case you're watching and decide that you would like to order product, I do invite you over to my online store. And you can find the links to my store and to all of my other sites simply by clicking on the Show More words that you'll find below this video. That little box will open up and you'll find lots of information there, including the links as I mentioned. The current host code, if you are going to place an order at my site between today and June 15th, is shown here. And I also have some other written information. It's a good time to take a screenshot if you don't want to have to rewatch the video, but you can always do that as well. So jumping into our Stamp Club card, the first thing that I'll do is tell you about all of the parts and pieces. And so we began with a piece of white cardstock. Now this is our thick cardstock. The reason I did that is the actual base of the card is white. And so if the base is made out of white cardstock, I'd like to use a thicker, heavier duty cardstock. This measures 4¼ inches by 11. I have scored and folded it at 5½ inches. So there's our card base. Then I have a piece here of Sweet Sorbet cardstock. This has been cut down to 5 inches by 3¾ Our papers typically come in 8½ by 11 inch sheets. Our cardstock, I should say. Sometimes the papers are available in 12 by 12. And so what I have done is just taken an 8½ by 11 and trimmed this down to the size that I needed. All right, then I started with another piece of white cardstock that was a scrap, but it was a rather large scrap, probably about 4¼ by 5½ inches, because I used this beautiful little frame die. This is from Color and Contour, which is a stamp set and also has coordinating dies. So I cut that white cardstock out using this die to give us this piece. All right. Then I have another piece of cardstock. This piece is DSP, excuse me. This piece I have cut down to 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. All right. The reason that that has kind of those strange dimensions is I wanted it just barely smaller than the Sweet Sorbet piece. So you can see how this is going to fit on there with just a tiny bit of color going around the border. All right, so let's put some of these pieces together and then we're going to cut this piece out so that if you're new to die cutting, especially, you'll be able to see how I do that. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is use my liquid glue and attach my designer series paper, which often gets abbreviated to DSP. So if you hear me use the word DSP, that's what I'm talking about. All right, and I'm just lining this up, as I said, so that I have a little border of color all the way around. All right, and this piece is going to get attached to the card base. We can go ahead and do that. And you can see how quickly this is already coming together. All right, let's go ahead and do our die cutting and then we will do the stamping and get this card finished up. All right, so on this piece, this is where we're going to do our stamping. And this is the piece I'm going to use to die cut. I do want to get my teacup cut out of this paper. This is the die that I'm going to be using, and it actually coordinates with this stamp set called Cup of Tea. And let me just fix this a little bit. Okay. I just wanted to make an adjustment there. Okay, so Cup of Tea has coordinating dies. And you can see the dies here. This is one of them as well. So we're going to use that. Now I'm going to use my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. This is the mini. Usually when I'm crafting here in my stamp studio, I use our larger machine. I like the way it works. I like that any die that I select will fit through it, but the mini machine is good if you are just getting started. Perhaps you don't want to spend the same amount as the large machine. Either one will cut beautiful images. So I'm creating my little sandwich layers. So I have a 1 plate and a 2 plate. Here's the 2. So I'm going to set that up. I'm going to place my designer series paper, or if you were cutting cardstock out, you would put that next. Then the die with the little side with an edge. This side is smooth, this side has the edge. You want the edge to go down and cover it with another plate number 2. Now the sandwich that I'm building, the plates might be a little bit different in the numbers if you were using the full-size machine, but this is all you need for your mini. Then I'm just going to crank the handle, and this pulls those plates, this little sandwich that I made, it pulls it through. And then we can take these layers apart and get our little die cut piece out as easy as that. Okay, super cute. All right, let's move these out of the way. Now the reason I wanted to go ahead and have my die cut ready before we do the stamping is I'm going to need this teacup to kind of determine the placement of my stamps. So I'm going to want the cup to end up right about there. And so you can either kind of make a mental note, or if you prefer, you can grab a pencil and just make a teeny little mark there at the top of the cup. This is going to give you a little indicator of where you need to stamp. So I'm reaching for this leafy stem stamp from the Cup of Tea stamp set and a garden green ink pad. And when I stamp my little green leafy stems on here, I'm going to use that pencil mark just to give me an indication. I want to go slightly below that pencil mark, like so. Okay, there's my pencil mark, and went a little lower so that now when I go back and put my cup on, I will have my leaves placed nicely inside the cup. Can you see that? And if your pencil mark is still showing, you can just take an eraser. I want to get a white eraser. Hold on. Let's see if this one works. There we go, to erase your pencil mark. Okay, so we're not going to quite attach this yet. Let's finish our stamping. So now I'm going to use this stamp. All of these stamps are from the Cup of Tea stamp set. And I'm using Sweet Sorbet ink. Remember, we used a layer of Sweet Sorbet cardstock on the front of the card, so I'm keeping my reds consistent. Now I'm just going to ink this up, and you can just kind of look at, let's see here. There we go. You can just kind of look at this little space here and this little space here, and these two larger flowers. And if you just kind of get those sort of in those spaces, then your flowers are going to look fine. They don't have to be lined up perfectly in any way. See, they just kind of end up right there in the mix of the green leaves. Beautiful. Okay, now I do have a hello stamp. This is not from the Cup of Tea. I pulled this from a different stamp set, but I really wanted our finished project to just be a hello card. And so now this is kind of funny. I happen to know that this stamp's a little crooked. So I'm going to do it on my scratch paper just to see if I need to make any adjustments. Okay, that's not too bad. I'm going to do one more to check myself. Okay, see, I feel like it slants down a teeny bit. So when I put it here on my card, I'm going to put it right where I think it needs to be, and just a hair, I'm going to lift the end of the word up, the O. And let's see how we did. See, it still slanted a teeny bit. So if you're, so I said checking it sometimes is important. I would tilt that up just a teeny bit to get it straighter, but for the sake of time, let's continue. All right, now I'm going to take my little cup and liquid glue and just go ahead and attach that right there, just so none of the leaves look funny. They look like the plant is actually coming up out of the cup, like so. All right, now I'm feeling compelled to do this because I don't like how this looks, and so therefore I probably would not use this piece. I would stamp it again. I'm going to show you how to fix our mistake because we all make them. So let me grab a scrap of cardstock. Hold on while I grab that. All right, I have a scrap. I have a scrap of white cardstock, and I also grabbed my oval punch. I am going to show you how I would legit fix this card. So on here, I'm going to stamp that hello one more time. Then I'm going to take my oval punch. I'm going to line it up nice and straight inside my oval punch. Punch it out. And I'm going to actually add my greeting right on top of this one, but punched out. It actually looks like I meant to do that, but as you can see, it's a great way to cover up a mistake of a stamp that is done crooked. So let's attach that. I can use my liquid glue. Good, now we're going to have two examples of this card. And that was actually faster than having to get a new piece of paper, do a new die cut, start completely over. Nope, I just fixed the words by stamping them separately and adding them to my project. All right, now let's get this onto the card front. And you can use your Stampin' Seal for this or your liquid glue, whatever is your favorite adhesive. Mine changes depending on what I'm doing. All right, so this is going to get centered onto that piece of Designer Series paper. That little gingham looks so sweet behind this focal image. All right, there we have that. And then let's add one little embellishment just to finish it off. I love these brushed brass butterflies. They are available still. And they come in two sizes, so you can see the smaller and the larger butterfly. So I'm looking for my Take Your Pick tool, and I don't see it within reach. So I'm going to have to hunt that down. And in the meantime, wow, I have a couple tools that I would like to use right now, and neither one of them are within reach of where I'm doing my stamping. So no, I can't do it without it. So let me grab this is an old piercing tool, and if you've been crafting for any time, I bet you have one or two or three of these laying around. So I am looking for my Take Your Pick tool, but it's not right here. The process is the same. So I'm just going to gently pry between the backing sheet and my little embellishment. That way I pick up the butterfly along with its backing, which is already sticky. And then I can go ahead and place the butterfly on the card. So we can determine which angle, maybe like this, and stick that on. And I think that is a nice finish to this card. So there you have it. Now I did also look at the inside and determine that maybe it needed a little something because the front is so cute and the inside is plain. So from the cup of tea stamp set, there's also a single flower. Remember we used these flowers before. There's a single flower. And so what I'm going to do is stamp this flower on the bottom of the card. And I'm going to do it once, and then without re-inking twice, and without re-inking a third time. So you kind of have that little ombre look of the red ink. I think it's pretty, it's subtle, and it still leaves you plenty of room to write a nice message inside your card. And there you have it. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment below. I really love to hear from you. It just makes my day. Let me know what you liked about it, and also think about copying this card or making one similar just from the inspiration that you received today. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy stamping.